Diablo Apox. Leap of Faith again by Anduin Vildanslo, and Medivh's gonna be able to finish him off. 3 kills, a triple for PFM. And now Diablo being surrounded. Fade falling to 25% health, Condemn, and Diablo's down. That might be the actual play of the game. They find another kill.
Apocalypse coming out though. Red team. Oh my god! Red team almost got him.
Axon jumping over to get some kills.
Oh, Ragnarok getting the concussion mine, knocking him out into the fray. Oh, the definition of unlucky.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the week number 6 Game of the Week pregame show. We got a big one for you tonight. ReGen versus Velocity. It's the Game of the Week. Joining me, as always, for this pregame show is Stoic. How are you doing?
I'm good, Murda. Thanks for asking. Happy to be here again.
Well, it's been now 3 weeks in a row of ReGen. You guys are looking at me like, Murda, did you plan this? Honestly, not. I didn't. No, it just so happened that these are the days that we're available to do Game of the Week. So here we are, 3 weeks in a row with RG, but this time they face up against Velocity. Maybe a winnable matchup for them.
Yeah, you know, it keeps being ReGen, and it keeps being very important matches for ReGen. And maybe none more important than this one now, Velocity here. According to 323 Weekly with the excellent DB Smiley, both ReGen and Velocity are currently sitting at that C tier. And this is ReGen's chance, really probably their last chance to say, look, we are a cut above the rest of these teams below us. And Smiley said that the winner of tonight is the only one left that has a chance at making top 4. So both these teams are coming into tonight with a chip on their shoulder, looking to say, we got something to prove.
Well, in these previous 2 weeks, ReGen, we've gotten to watch them on the Game of the Week. They had losses to both VGM Gaming, it was a 3-0, and then last week a nail-biter going all the way to Game 5 up against the #1 team here in the Storm Division, Team Alexander from South Korea. What a match that was. So many highlights, and it had a lot of people sitting on the edge of their seats, Stoic.
Yeah, that's a series that could have gone. Like, there were so many of those maps that could have gone the other way for ReGen there. Ultimately, they did fall to Team Alexander, but put up an incredible showing. It's interesting. ReGen is such an interesting team because they'll go from dropping 3-0 to VGM to then taking it to almost winning every map against Team Alexander, or they'll go, they'll sweep the other Koreans, but then they'll go 3-2 against. C-Ton. So like ReGen is like, they sometimes they have these incredible showings of these amazing games, and sometimes it's like it's not quite all there for the team.
Yeah, so a lot of highs and a lot of lows, and just trying to really find their balance. String together 3 maps in one night, find their wins. Tonight though, it really is a big one. Velocity, they've been in a similar situation to ReGen, kind of sitting in the middle of the pack, fighting to hang on to what would be the number 6 seed in the Storm Division heading into the playoffs, which means, if you're 7 or 8, you miss the playoffs. So important game for Velocity, important game for ReGen. This one could determine almost who's in or who's out of the playoffs when it gets down to it. But looking at some of the matches Velocity's played, they were able to beat the other Koreans in week 1, but they lost games to Team Exodia, Chili Mountain, and Team Alexander. So has them currently sitting in 7th place. I'm going to pull up the standings right now, Stoic, as we take a look. It's still Team Alexander sitting on top, undefeated after that close win last week against ReGen. But we see our 2 teams entering tonight. ReGen in the 5 spot, Velocity in the 7 spot, Stoic.
Yeah, absent here is Velocity's week 5 matchup, which is actually happening this coming Saturday here on twitch.tv/Nexus Gaming Series against VGM. And there's a world here where if ReGen wins tonight and Velocity isn't able to upset VGM and falls to C-Ton, the Velocity's playoff seat could be on the line.
That's very true. We have C-Ton currently sitting the only team in Storm Division without a win. A lot of experts might say that they are on their last life right now. They're going to need at least 2 wins to have any sort of chance of moving on. But Velocity, they're going to need a win too. They need to be able to leapfrog over the other Koreans. Luckily for them, they do hold that tiebreaker after the week 1 win. But a win tonight would definitely help them out. A loss tonight might actually end up hurting them. But having that extra map or match this Saturday up against VGM going to add an extra opportunity to gain a point in the standings for Velocity.
Yeah, and these, I think, really, like, when it comes down to it, if I'm looking at my chance of walking away with the biggest portion of the prize pool I can at the playoffs, I do not want to see Team Alexander week 1. I mean, while Team Alexander has given up a couple more maps later in the regular season than they have previously, I don't want to face them round 1 of playoffs for sure.
I think I might be incorrect here, but I'm pretty sure the top 2 teams automatically advance to the upper bracket, whereas the bottom 2, or no, it's the top 4 go to the upper bracket. The losers of those first 2 games drop to the lower bracket where they play against the 5 and 6 seed. So the 5 and 6 seed automatically enter the playoffs in that lower bracket. So you really want to fight for the 4 spot to gain what would be an extra life in the double elimination playoffs.
Yeah, I guess that's you're right. You fight for the 4 spot so that you can face Team Alexander first round, and if you don't make it, then you have a chance to climb back to fight them again in the finals.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, dude, I am so stoked for the playoffs. It's going to be an outstanding and exciting couple of weeks. I think it's 5 total weeks actually that we get the playoffs here. So a lot to look forward to, but we still have 2 more weeks here in the regular season before we get going there. And this week, as we mentioned, a big one for ReGen and Velocity. Let's start breaking down this matchup a bit, Stoic. We talked pregame, or I guess pre-show, about the pre-show, picking what we think will be the most important heroes at each role this evening. We're going to start off with the tank position, where this looks very similar to last week. A little hint, we might have a couple of these that look similar to last week, but it's going to be Garrosh, ETC, and Diablo as our 3 tanks we think that are going to have the primary focus this evening.
Yeah, ETC saw nerfs, but he's still seeing so much play, just all around very strong. As one of the top tank spots here, the Garrosh is seeing incredible participation in Storm Division. I mean, he oftentimes doesn't hit that, those tier lists that you might see, but the players are still picking him up. And then Diablo, of course, is just such a terror when played well. We could see some other tanks tonight, but those are the ones that will probably be the game makers. Johanna could happen. We saw some falling sword action last week. Maybe she gets another chance this week. Who knows?
Yeah, we've seen Hot Show play very consistent onto the main 2, Garrosh and ETC. I think if Velocity wants to target ban out any player tonight, Hot Show might be the one they look at doing because, I mean, the pick rates are just through the roof, Garrosh, ETC, and I think if it is a third, you're right, that Johanna might have a case to be picked this evening for Hot Show from ReGen. The Diablo, we've seen a lot of Diablo and a lot of counter picking that has to come out because of him. The Tychus, the Leo, the Malthael even, just to deal with this big red tank. Any other thoughts on what we might see maybe a Muradin tonight?
Well, yeah, that actually is a really interesting point that you bring up. Like, if the team has watched it, okay, we've seen Hot Show play, and he loves the ETC and he loves the Garrosh. If a team were to ban those 2 heroes, and then pick up something else, or let's say they pick up Johanna, they could force the Diablo and then pick up a Tychus in response. And Tychus has seen quite a rise since his little bit of talent reorganization in last week's patch. So that's definitely a good point there, Murda, that there could be a little bit of the tank choke draft play tonight.
I think I'd expect that out of tonight's matchup, but we got more positions to look at. Tanks will be tanks, but healers will be healers, and tonight we're highlighting 3 here: Malfurion, Stukov, and what has become a very important healer for ReGen, Brightwing. Played twice last week in 2 wins up against Team Alexander by Valimar. Thoughts on adding Brightwing to the mix here, Stoic?
Yeah, Valimar definitely brings has been working on bringing the Brightwing back, and Brightwing has seen a huge uptick in play in both, in all competitive matchups in these CCL exhibitions as well as the in-houses. Brightwing's been kind of just creeping up in there, and the spooky little dragon's been doing a great job of that. That Z build with that single target, just like 2 seconds later, just you have so much health back, has been doing really quite well. The other healers like Stukov and Malfurion are such consistent healers, not quite as vulnerable as the Ana, and not quite as often banned as the Ana, which is maybe why she doesn't appear here as often as her win
Yeah.
rates would.
I'm really glad
show.
you mentioned Ana, because some of you at home might be looking at this list of healers like, where's Ana? Yeah, where is she? We never get to see her anymore because she's banned every single game. Last week, Team Alexander, all 5 games, first banned out the Ana. There was no chance of her being picked all night long. I don't think that really changes here in this matchup. I think both teams really understand the power that healer can provide to a team when in their possession, especially when paired in with the Leeming, which little preview, we might be talking about her in just a bit from the DPS position. So don't expect too much Ana, and if she does get through a ban phase, okay, you can expect a first pick.
Yeah, Ana really is. You grab her early, and she defines your draft. And if you keep her alive, the healing throughput as well as that nano boost is just absolutely game changing.
So enough for the healer position. Let's take a look at the solo lane, where this has been consistent for the past 3 weeks in a row. Those of you regulars out there have got to be bored with looking at this solo lane screen, but it's Yrel, Blaze, Leoric, and I was talking to Stoic before we got going here about this Leoric in particular. I think really has seen a rise purposefully because of that Diablo pick that's becoming a bit more popular here in Storm Div. Some way to counter him out, percentage damage, and a pretty safe pick because you always have an escape available.
Yeah, he also is he's also a pretty good double soaker who brings that more bruiser-esque to a team fight than would say like a Malthael would. So there's definitely that of Leoric. Absent here that we should note is the D.Va, still a very potent double soaker, and even after the nerfs, a very strong pick. Neither of these two teams have showed a strong tendency to picking up D.Va, and so that's why she doesn't make the hit here. Nintori typically, if it's not going to be Yrel, you might be getting the Vikings, and so D.Va might make a showing. We'll have to see how these teams, if they've reprioritized based on the first 5 weeks of Storm Div so far.
I don't know if you got to watch how special it was last week. Game number 1, Team Alexander, and Arrow was calling for it. The Gazlowe pick out of nowhere. I was like, dude, you're a god. How'd you know that was coming? He's like, just lucky guess. But we got to see a Gazlowe last week. If it happens again this week, I wouldn't hate it. It was a lot of fun. And Team Alexander actually able to take out a win. I believe it was Tomb of the Spider Queen they used the hero. Pretty fun guy. Do we see him 2 weeks in a row? I think we'll be lucky if we do. But if it happens, I wouldn't hate it.
Yeah, it's possible. Gazlowe really like his buff. He was already in a kind of an almost good spot, and these buffs really have, again, pushed him back up to be like, oh, maybe this laser build is actually a thing. It could happen. We'll see.
Final role that we're going to take a look at this evening is the DPS role, and I already mentioned her. The Leeming is going to be paired in here with Raynor and Junkrat, who I think Raynor now, 2nd week in a row he's been on this list. Junkrat's been on and off, and Leeming the same for her. Very consistent this season in the Storm Division, these 3 assassins, and all kind of bring something a bit different to the table. Of course, Junkrat can be great on those zone control maps, just as an honorable mention Chromie would be as well. Leeming, great on Battlefield of Eternity, getting that burst damage kills along with the Greymane, and Raynor just Mr. Consistent. And, likely going to be picked on Battlefield of Eternity as well for that Exterminator talent. But, Stoic, any thoughts on these 3 heroes for the DPS role?
No, it's such an interesting world that we're living in where Raynor and Leeming are such contested picks, not just on Battlefield of Eternity, but on all maps, that they really are showing up as top picks here. Raynor's even seen bans in Storm Division on maps other than BOE. Just a quick shout out again to the Junkrat by Mysticles and Gotfilth both. Like, if either of them play Junkrat, it's a treat. And with 2 possible players for that, I think Junkrat could see his face in a couple of these drafts tonight.
Ooh, yeah. Junkrat's been... I feel like every time I cast him, he ends up winning the game. He's just one of those heroes that seems to control team fights. He's got the burst, of course, with the Riptire. He's got the traps that can really help with almost like an engage. Like, if you fall in the trap, it's go time for the team.
Yeah, Junkrat's a 60% win rate and 60% popularity in games in Storm Division so far.
That's kind of insane.
Yeah.
So tonight, I think, yeah, very much an important hero for both sides, perhaps. Although I don't think we've seen ReGen put too much priority towards the Junkrat at all.
I think I think ReGen might have showed one game on the Junkrat, so definitely not one of their stable picks.
Okay, so everyone, that is all of our heroes that we are highlighting for tonight's matchup. If you have anything else to add, feel free to type below in chat and let us know if you think any other heroes might make an appearance tonight. But after looking at all those heroes, Stoic, that means we are at the end of the road here for the pregame show. It is time for some brass tacks, and Stoic, it is time for some predictions. Who you got in tonight's matchup?
I think I have to give it tonight to. It's a hard one. But I'm going to give tonight to ReGen, just barely. I think this will go to 3. I think this will go 5 games.
Ooh.
I think there'll be at least one base race. But I think definitely like ReGen has had closer losses to some of the same teams that Velocity had a little bit bigger of losses to. And I think ReGen takes this one 3-2 tonight.
I'm going to agree with you on who wins. I think ReGen will take it. However, after a big almost win last week against Team Alexander, I feel as though ReGen kind of felt a bit revitalized. Found a bit of steam in their engines, and I think they're going to rip through a domination victory this week up against Velocity. I'm calling for the 3-0, in spite of the fact that Velocity was able to knock off ReGen during the qualifier rounds. I think ReGen has it in them right now. They're in much better form than they were back then. I'm calling 3-0 tonight for RG.
Interesting. The two teams are very different since then. I got to bring up the fact, though, that Velocity also took 2 games off Team Alexander.
You're not wrong, but I'm still going to hold by the 3-0, Stoic.
All right, let's do it. We'll see what happens in just a minute.
All right, guys, everyone at home, thank you for sitting through our pregame show. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, let us know down below. And say hello in chat. We have about 14 minutes left until the match will start. 9 p.m. Eastern kickoff time this evening. ReGen versus Velocity, Week 6 here in the Storm Division. If you want to follow Stoic, head on over to Twitter at HLS Stoic, or over here on Twitch, twitch.tv/HLS Stoic. If you want to follow me, Twitter at MurdaRG, same tag here on Twitch as well. Love you guys. Hope to see you in a bit, as we will be starting up at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. ReGen versus Velocity.